Welcome to this explainer. We're diving straight into the actual science and biomechanics of transforming those stubborn, skinny wrists. Look, if you've ever felt totally frustrated because your forearms just refuse to grow, no matter how many standard gym routines you throw at them, well, you're exactly where you need to be. Let's figure out what the human body actually needs to build that dense, thick, lower arm mass. So, here's our game plan for today. We're going to start by busting the skinny wrist myth. Then, we'll hit our three main pillars: structural stability, deep flexor mass, and rotational power. Finally, we'll wrap the whole thing up with the ultimate programming blueprint.
All right, part one, the skinny wrist myth.
So many people hit this incredibly frustrating wall. Their arms and shoulders get bigger, but their wrists, they just stay super fragile looking. But here's the biological reality of it all. The wrist is essentially a stability joint. Its main job in life is to stay completely neutral while force passes through it. And if it feels unstable, your central nervous system literally puts the brakes on growth to protect the joint. It's not punishing you, I promise. It's just trying to keep you safe. People do endless high-rep wrist curls, which just train movement, but what your nervous system is actually begging for is structural responsibility.
And just to prove that permanent structural change is absolutely possible, one creator actually documented 300 days of specialized training, and the result? He gained over an entire inch on his wrists. The craziest part was his undeniable proof. This old watch he got for his 15th birthday literally couldn't fit past his thickened hand anymore. So yeah, your body desperately wants to adapt. We just have to feed it the right stimulus.
Which brings us to pillar one: structural stability. Okay, so before we can even think about packing on size, we have to convince the nervous system that the joint is safe. And we kick that off with the isometric wrist load hold. You're going to get into a locked push-up position and just shift your weight forward. But here's the key: do not let the wrist bend. Keep those elbows locked, spread your fingers wide. You're going to feel the pressure building, but absolutely nothing moves. Just holding that for like 15 to 20 seconds sends a massive signal to your nervous system saying, hey, this wrist can totally handle direct pressure.
Next up, we have the bar support hold. For this one, you just hang from a pull-up bar with straight arms, and you let your wrists carry full vertical responsibility. No swinging around, no trying to do a pull-up. You just step up, lock the arms, keep the shoulders active, and literally do nothing. It sounds simple, right? But it teaches vertical force control, which is a type of tension that standard gym training almost entirely ignores.
Finally, we're going to take that high-tension stillness and put it into motion with the farmer carry wrist lock. You'll be walking slowly, holding heavy dumbbells, but absolutely refusing to let your wrists collapse. Now listen, if your wrists start to fold forward or backward, drop the weight. It's too heavy. This exact movement mimics how wrists actually operate out in the real world, carrying heavy things and staying perfectly stable.
All right, moving right along to pillar two, deep flexor mass.
Now that we've got our foundation locked in, it's time to build some serious, deep internal density. Our main target here is a bit of a mouthful: the flexor digitorum profundus. Think of it as the hidden engine for thick lower forearms. When you squeeze the steering wheel tight, this is the muscle doing all the heavy lifting. And developing it? Well, it creates this massive internal bulk that literally pushes the whole forearm outward, right around where your watch sits. To put this into perspective, EMG studies actually show that rock climbers hit an unbelievable 96.6% maximum activation of this exact muscle. How? Just by doing these fingertip-only crimp grip dead hangs. So instead of wrapping your whole hand around a bar, you're gripping it using only your fingertips, bent right at that first knuckle. I mean, there's a reason rock climbers have some of the most insanely developed forearms on the planet. They spend hours under this highly specific tension. By just hanging from a bar with your fingertips for, say, 10 to 20 seconds, you can replicate that exact same extreme stimulus. But hey, don't worry, you don't need to install a climbing wall in your living room to do this. Golden era 1970s bodybuilders achieved this exact same deep mass using something called behind-the-back finger curls. Because the barbell is held behind your back, gravity physically forces it to roll all the way down into your fingertips. So you're literally forced to curl your fingers closed tightly before you can even begin to flex your wrist. It's a brilliant way to isolate those deep muscles perfectly.
Let's jump into pillar three, rotational power.
All right, now we're going to uncover an elite arm wrestler secret. This is all about creating the visual illusion of a massive wrist taper. Look, almost nobody trains the pronator teres directly. It's the muscle that controls pronation, basically the motion you use when turning a doorknob. But here's the magic.
When this thick, meaty muscle gets wider, your upper forearm just balloons in size. And because of that contrast, the structured lower wrist below it looks incredibly thick and powerful by comparison.
In fact, legendary champion arm wrestler Devin Larratt literally calls pronation his best weapon. Why? Because rotational dominance is exactly what separates elite hand control from everyone else. So even if you never plan on stepping up to a competitive arm wrestling table in your life, stealing this technique from them is absolutely non-negotiable if you want serious forearm mass.
So how do we isolate it? You do it using seated pronation twists. It's super simple. You just rest your forearm flat on your thigh, hold a light dumbbell with your palm facing up, and then slowly rotate your forearm inward until your palm faces down. Combine that movement with some reverse curls using an overhand grip. That overhand grip forces your flexor muscles to just fight relentlessly against gravity to keep your wrists from collapsing.
And finally, part 5, the ultimate programming blueprint.
Okay, let's pull the whole shebang together and safely wire these signals right into your central nervous system. Because forearm muscles actually recover insanely fast. You can train them pretty frequently, like 4 to 5 days a week. But hold on, here's the catch. You need to keep your effort at about a 7 or 8 out of 10. Never ever go to complete failure here. You've really got to train for the pump, not for the pain. That high frequency without muscle damage is the absolute key to constant adaptation. Now, if you stick to this routine, you're going to notice something super cool. Your nervous system will start creating this feeling of dense safety during the first 2 weeks. And this happens way before the actual structural tissue visibly adapts around weeks 3 and 4. So in week 1, your wrists are just going to feel way more secure under a load. By week 2, all your standard gym lifts, pressing, pulling, they're going to feel noticeably calmer. And then by week 4, boom, that visual thickness finally begins to show up.
So, the big takeaway here? Your body absolutely wants to adapt and grow, but it demands proof, actual proof, that the joint is safe enough to carry heavy loads. So I'll leave you with this final thought as you rethink your workouts. Are you just chasing a temporary burn, or are you finally ready to train your wrists for structural responsibility? Try implementing this blueprint and just watch what happens. Thanks for hanging out with me on this explainer, and I will catch you in the next one.